Welcome to the Starfighter Podcast.
Welcome back to the Starfighter Podcast. It's Dom and Jake, your co-hosts for the show. We're here to give a spoiler review of Wonder Woman 84. But first, Jake, how are you doing?
Doing good. Good to be back. Just the two of us. Don't need any guests today.
Yeah, sometimes it's just gotta be the main guys.
Yeah.
All right, to our viewers and our listeners, if you haven't already, drop us a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We really appreciate it. Let's get right into it, Jake. I think we got a lot to say about this movie. I guess before we take it like piece by piece or whatever, I'll just say I enjoyed watching the movie for what it was. I don't think that it was that great of a film, but I did enjoy myself. You know, I had my nephew visiting and spending some time with me and my wife, and so the three of us we had fun watching it. You know, but yeah, let's break it down. Let's start with the story, or you can give your first initial thoughts too.
Yeah, I feel how you did a little bit. It obviously is kind of a disappointment, unfortunately. But I mean, it was like the only blockbuster movie I saw all year, so it was nice to just see something like that. But unfortunately, coming off the last movie, a little bit too much hype around it, which I guess is my own fault because I really enjoyed the first one. But no, definitely let's get into what basically went wrong with this. Spoilers, of course.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you might not want to watch this review. Let's start with the whole concept, which I think is the biggest, and we're also going to talk about some things that we did like. So don't worry, everybody. But I think the biggest problem with the movie was how it was based around this concept of this stone or artifact that you make wishes on, and I thought it was a really weak plot, like a really weak plot piece that I don't know. I didn't like it at all. You kind of have to
No.
get on board though, you know what I mean? Because like it's there for the entire thing. It's like you have to get on board with it. And I guess once you do, you start to enjoy like some of the other stuff that is good in this movie. But you know, yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. I didn't do too much research on the movie beforehand just because I didn't want to be spoiled that much. So like from all the advertisements, you'd think it's mainly about Cheetah or whatever, but
Right.
it was, like you were saying, all about the stone, which I mean, there's good and bad in it. It makes it so the big plot is not really trying to defeat a villain. It's more of an idea, and it's trying to convey a message of like you should be careful what you wish for, basically. And so it
Right.
is more of like a concept that they try to work characters around instead of the other way around, I feel like. And I mean, it just depends on some points in the movie. Like in the beginning, I found it fairly interesting, but obviously towards the end, the whole plot kind of sputters out for that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the intro. I thought it was pretty good. They're on is it Themyscira? I believe that's what it is.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
that was my favorite part of the movie for sure.
I think that was probably my favorite part too. Yeah, pretty great scene where we get her competing in this competition, and I do like how the lesson that you kind of get with her as a little girl, like that lesson kind of carries on a little bit as far as um, being a truthful person, how that carries on for the rest of the film. I guess that's what I appreciate about the intro.
Yeah, I know like in the trailers they showed a lot of that intro in the trailers, and so I was kind of hoping that there would be more scenes of their mascara and flashbacks and everything, because I mean there hasn't been that much character development for her as far as her origin. Like in the first movie, she's just kind of there. It's like we see a few things about her training as a youth and everything like that. But I would have enjoyed some more flashbacks just because we kind of know where she's at, what's going to happen to her in the future. So it would have been nice to know more about her past. But of course, after that one scene in Themyscira in the beginning, that was basically all we got.
Yeah. What else stood out to you about the plot, either positive or negative? Like anything?
It kind of seemed convoluted in the way that they tried to do like a supervillain mashup that didn't really work, in my opinion. It's like the characters of Maxwell Lord and Cheetah were somewhat connected, but they weren't like symbiotic like normal villain mashups would be, like such as in Iron Man 2 with Hammer Tech and Whiplash, I believe. They both had their mutual hatred of Iron Man, and they were both able to use each other. One was a strong person, the other one was the tech guy, and they kind of meshed well. You know what I'm saying? Whereas this one, it was kind of didn't make sense why they're even together at the end. Like all this, they were all of a sudden friends just because he gave
Yeah.
her a wish, which he did to like a million other people, and then she was just trying to basically defend the wishes for reasons, I guess. But it was just kind of strange. It didn't really mesh for me.
Yeah, same here. It, like you said, towards the end, I mean, in the beginning, yeah, it's like, okay, like, they like each other, like there's a romance or a romantic relationship there between them. But then towards the end, it's like, he doesn't really care, she doesn't really care. Like they have like their own things they're trying to get accomplished with the wishes. So it's like they're not really tied to one another anymore. Um, but
Yeah,
the
that was
movie wants
strange.
you, yeah, the movie wants you to think like that they still are somehow. But
Yeah, it's like that's how it starts out, and then they hook up, and then it's like they just kind of go their separate ways, and then they see it that each other at the end. They're like, "Hey, come with me," and then he's like, "All right," and that was kind of that. It was strange. I didn't really like the characters' relationships too much overall.
yeah, let's dive more into the characters, and I guess we can just go ahead and start with Gal Gadot. I think she's probably the best part of the movie. Um, Definitely the best character. I think we've seen a really good progression of her and like her talent as Wonder Woman. I think she's gotten a lot better and a lot more comfortable playing the role, and I think she did a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of hers. Definitely. I wish she was in Marvel, something that would
Yeah.
kind of suit her a little bit better, instead of everything that's going on in DCEU. That's so confusing and everything like that. But no, I've always liked her for that role, and I think she did a good job in this movie. I definitely think that the problems with this movie was not on her in any sort of way, other than some strange dialogue and inconsistencies in like her powers and stuff. But that's really again not on her. I think she did everything for the character to make it be well represented. And yeah, I'm definitely a fan of hers.
Yeah, me too. What about Kristen Wiig's character? I know for me, I didn't like her in the beginning. I thought that she got better towards the end. Still don't think they really handled Cheetah that well. And um, from what I can see, like, and what I've heard is that Cheetah is supposed to be a pretty prominent villain for Wonder Woman in the comics, and I don't know, it didn't really seem that way. Didn't really seem like that in this movie.
No, I think I think we got what we expected when we first heard that Kristen Wiig was cast as the villain. And that's what you get. First of all, her character as the human part, not the cheetah part. Um, it's it's really overplayed in my book, of like the super nerdy loser who idolizes the superhero. I mean, we see it with like Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3. It's overplayed in my opinion. And it leaves for like really cringy moments because the person's kind of trying so hard to be a loser, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is. That's how they want to portray it. So the whole thing with her getting powers through wish was kind of interesting. I should look up, I should know this, but I don't, of how she originally got her powers. I'd like to know that, because I don't know if it was from the same way in the comics, because I know she's a prominent villain for a long period of time. Um, but it was interesting, her development as we went towards the end of her kind of basically what I got out of it was she gained her powers, but she lost her humanity. Is that kind of what you were getting at with the counter of what you lose when you wish for something?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like we kind of mentioned earlier, it's not a really solid constructed plot by any means.
Yeah, and so it was kind of weird, just like her turn didn't make too much sense. It's like, oh, I want to be like Diana. Okay, that makes sense. Diana's awesome, right? But then at the end, she's like, I want to be an apex predator. That was kind of like, why? You want to kill people now? It's
Yeah.
like you just wanted to be cool and liked. But I don't think she acted badly. I think she acted herself, which in my opinion, she's just better on SNL than a supervillain. That's just her.
No, you know what I will say is that that transition from after she makes the wish, like going from, like you said, kind of that nerdy, like loser type character, like doesn't have anything going for them in life. When she makes that transition um, to being more like Diana, I felt like the acting was pretty good. Like she had the confidence, you know,
Mhm.
um, of being like a more likable person to other people and fun to be around and all that. But yeah, I thought she did a good job when she made that transition and even as she started to become powerful and like that scene where she goes and confronts um, that homeless person, or was it a homeless person? I think so.
Well, yeah, she
What?
was around the homeless person with
Or no, no, no.
the business guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the business guy. When she goes and confronts that businessman um, for the second time, and has that interaction with him and starts to beat him up. But yeah, I thought she did pretty good as a human form. Didn't really care for her too much as Cheetah.
yeah, I agree. I think she acted well for the role. I wish it would have been sort of a bigger transformation, like going back again to Iron Man 3. And when you see the first scenes of Aldrich Killian, it's like you don't even recognize the dude. Um, but I mean, all she basically did was take off her glasses and get some confidence. So
Yeah,
it was interesting just the way that they did it. And again, it's a weird part where it's like, is this even integral to the plot of the movie? Because it's like it was about wishes, right? It's like, so her being there was almost pointless at points. It was like they try to combine two ideas at the same time.
yeah. Well, what do you think? Maybe we can move on to the character of Maxwell Lord.
So I've heard mixed opinions about it because going from Mandalorian, where he shows little emotion and his face like twice, to being so extra, right? I mean, I found it really funny, and I think for the weird character he was, I think he acted really well in it. The hair was a little bit goofy at times, but I think he did well. I thought he was one of the funnier characters, definitely better than Cheetah. Although, again, he's not really the super villain type. He's just a guy who's trying to make money, basically, in kind of some schemy ways. But I thought he was a fun character, at least.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think he definitely stood out. I almost liken him to Ewan McGregor in the prequels for Star Wars, and the fact that like they don't always get dealt the best lines. but the delivery is there and they can sell you on it. I feel like he did a great job delivering all of his lines and acting the part, like you said, being extra, being overly dramatic a lot of times. And in the emotional scenes with him and his son, I felt like that did strike a chord with me, and I feel like a lot of people for like the audience that really stood out for them as well.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. I didn't think that was bad at all. I didn't really like his ending arc, but for the most part, I think he did really well, and I enjoyed the character.
Very nice. Let's talk about the action. I feel like there's a lack of action
Yeah,
in this movie.
I would definitely say so. I mean, what do we got for action? You can call the opening scene action.
Hmm.
Um, you can call some of the scenes in Egypt action, where she's taking down the Humvees and everything like that. And
The mall
then,
scene, maybe,
the,
if you want to call that a little
yeah,
bit.
it's the sort of action where nobody stands a chance, so they make a comedy out of it instead of actually action. And then her final battle with Cheetah. Am I missing any action? Because I felt like it was sort of lacking.
Um, there is that fight that they all have. Um, where are they at?
Oh, are they in like the where are they in the Capitol or no? They're in a museum or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, where she's starting to get weak and everything. Yeah, that wasn't bad. It was just not that much for me, especially when you don't have a stellar villain, which this was also a little bit of a problem with the first Wonder Woman movie, because it had such a sort of lame villain. But at least in that one, even though the villain was lame, the special effects were very cool for the final fights, even though it wasn't like a sort of choreographed fight. It's more of a superpower fight. But I thought it was at least visually cool. Whereas this one had a lot to be desired.
yeah, I liked that scene where like with the car chase or whatever, and uh, that battle with all of them. I thought that was pretty good. How did you like the mall scene? I've heard a lot of talk on that. What were your
Um,
thoughts?
it's fine. It felt a little cheesy to me. I
Yeah,
felt
I
like
think it was meant to be.
yeah, it was. Which I mean, I'm not saying like oh Marvel can't be cheesy. Of course it can. It was just fine. I'm not one for the cheesiness, and I think they added the mall scene a lot to like give you an '80s feel right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely.
Felt very reminiscent of Stranger Things season 3.
Hmm.
um, which is one of my other issues with this movie is they drop the '80s theme pretty fast, and it's kind of irrelevant to be during the '80s. It felt like, um,
Yeah,
but it was fine. I wouldn't call it action. It was just a little chuckle humor, I guess, but it was okay.
yeah. I thought it was an okay scene, but I mean, not that good. Didn't hate it at the same time, but it was like it felt a little bit out of place, like when you look back at the entire movie, because it's like that's the scene that's definitely set in the 80s, but like everything else, like you kind of alluded to, it's like kind of irrelevant when it comes to the 80s. So it's like they should have made like that 80s nostalgia a little bit more prevalent if this is Wonder Woman 84. You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously, they made such a big deal out of it. Whereas, like, you look at a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously it's not set in that time period, but it has the theme of the music, and that's the music makes the movie so cool. And it's like,
Yeah.
did they play 180 song during this movie? Is set in 1984? Like,
I don't
what could you
know.
come on, Warner Brothers? Did you not get the rights to some music? Like, I don't know. It just did not have that feel. It's the costumes were either over the top 80s or like not 80s at all, and they looked fairly normal for our time period. It was very strange because I mean they're dressed pretty normally for the majority of the movie, except for when Steve does this whole fashion show, just
Yeah.
to remind you that they're in the 80s and that's what fashion is in the 80s apparently. Um, but yeah, it didn't have that theme. I don't know why it's called Wonder Woman 1984, just so you know what year it is, because she's kind of all over the place because she lives for so long. But it didn't have a point to the movie.
I mean, I really liked the trailer that for the movie, and you definitely got the '80s feel, and you got an '80s type of song as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that was all the 80s the movie gave you, really. I mean, we spend a lot
yeah,
of it in Egypt, which it didn't feel like 80s because, I mean, it's a third world country type vibe, so they haven't progressed that much. So I guess it didn't feel like the 80s. And then even towards the end, um, I don't know, it just didn't feel like that to me at all.
let's go ahead and move on to some of the dialogue. Is there anything that really stands out to you at all? We kind of touched on a little bit.
Yeah, we touched on it. Again, I don't think it's too much any of the actors' fault. Script was kind of cringy at a lot of times, actually, with Cheetah. But again, that's her character. Um, but it's not my preference. I think Maxwell Lord's dialogue actually fit him because he was extra and funny, and even though it was really cheesy and stupid, it actually worked well. Um, I didn't think Wonder Woman herself is almost any ever funny. Like, there was a few
Yeah,
humorous parts in the first movie, but I mean, I like her as an actress, and I think she does the serious and the drama really well. But at least for her character, she's not funny.
yeah, I agree. She's more of a serious type of character.
Hmm.
I think that pretty much sums up the dialogue. There's nothing to write home about.
No, I mean
um,
Steve Trevor, I felt like came in for some comic relief at times, and again, he didn't have a huge point to be in this movie either. Um,
yeah,
but
why don't we dive into that? We
sure,
haven't talked about Steve Trevor as a character.
yeah. So my personal preference is should have left him dead. What about you?
I think so too. I thought that he was okay, and I like Chris Pine too as an actor. Again, it's just the whole plot. It's the story. There's just so many issues there that it's like I don't know. It probably would have been better without him, and just try to approach things from a much different angle than what the movie takes you on.
Yeah, I definitely think no, I definitely like the character in the first movie, and he was good in this coming back. It was unnecessary. I mean, I guess it involved her in the wish making sort of. So what else would she wish for other than that? I get that if that's the direction you're going, but it was just strange. First of all, why does he have to take over somebody else's body? Why cannot he not appear out of thin air if we're making wishes here? Does that make
Yeah,
sense to you?
exactly. Absolutely. I know we were talking a little bit about that after, and it's like or before we started the show, we were talking about it. But yeah, it's like just make him come back as himself. Like, why are we even including this other guy?
Yeah, I mean, if we're making wishes here, it's like, why can't I get what I want, right? But it
Yeah,
was just strange. I know Twitter blew up, and a lot of critics had problems with the ethics in the movie, which is very valid because, I mean, he takes over this dude's body, and he's not actually himself. He's more taking over his mind because everybody sees the original person still, except for her. So they're together, and then he's going off on all these dangerous missions, and they never even mention the ethics of it, because if they didn't have to renounce her wish, she would have just kept Steve in that body forever, not caring that they literally took somebody's life, and they could care less about it. I mean, this is the Justice League, right? And that seems so unjust that they
yeah,
could not care less about this guy's life. And she sees him at the end and just like, guess what? I did crazy things when somebody else took over your body with you. It's like, what? This is weird, man. And it's like, why do you not care? Like,
yeah.
you care enough not to fight Maxwell Lord at the end, but you don't care that this dude. I mean, how many days was Steve alive? Like, Why is that dude happy at the end of the movie, like smiling and walking around during Christmas or whatever? Dude, he woke up and he's like, where have the last week or so been? I
Right.
mean, oh, and then I think Steve like got slashed and stabbed sometimes. It's like, what happened to him? Like he's gonna have some issues there. Apparently he doesn't care, neither does Diana. So I guess we can just move on from that. Seems weird to me.
Yeah, let's segue into um you're kind of talking about it a little bit, but the ending of the movie. And now that you mention all of those things, because I was gonna say that I like the part, and it worked for me, the part where she's saying goodbye to Steve Trevor. But now that you mention all that, it only really works if you don't think about this other guy.
No, that's why I thought it
But
was weird that they brought him back in the end. It's like try to
yeah,
put that guy out of your mind.
but it is the plot, it is the story, that it does have to do with him. So it's like,
But literally never
yeah,
mentioned. She gave it up because everybody had to renounce their wish, but she would never have given him up to give the other dude his life back. So yeah, that part was weird.
yeah, it's just a lot of these things, they don't work, and the delivery isn't done justice when you have this whole thing happening with uh, the body sharing or whatever you want to call it. It
No,
it
yeah.
doesn't it doesn't help the movie at all. It really doesn't.
No, it just a wonder why they had to do that. It makes no sense. I mean, there were some like comedy bits that came from it, I guess. Um, but yeah, it's pretty irrelevant to the movie.
But again, if we're not thinking about him, I liked the scene. Um I liked Gal Gadot and her acting. You really saw the talent there. I believe that she was really sad to let go of Steve again, and this time for good. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, go
it's just
ahead.
unfortunate that we already had this scene in the last movie. So it's like kind of been there, done that type of deal. I mean,
Yeah,
it was acted nicely. I know a lot of people did enjoy the scene after where she basically learns how to fly.
yeah, that's
Um,
what I was gonna
I
say.
know Patty Jenkins basically came out and said that that's what they were going for, like how the first one had the no man's land scene of like just that epic power and everything after an emotional event. I did definitely think it didn't hit as well as the no man's land scene because that was awesome. But what did you think of that scene in particular?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I liked it. I did like it. I thought it was a good way. Again, a good emotional scene, and a good callback to Steve and their relationship. Another issue that I know a lot of people have is that why was Diana so hung up on Steve for like all these years? But the thing you have to remember is that she's a Amazonian, and so time is a little bit different because she's got so much time on her hands.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
so I
My
buy into
question,
it.
yeah, yeah, my question is more of how did she learn to fly in this movie, but she couldn't fly in Batman versus Superman?
Good point. Well,
It
does she not at all?
she never flies. No, she does her like super speed that she does. She
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
fly in Batman versus Superman for some reason.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting because I get how they were trying to call back to like the scene where they're in the the jet that they take to Egypt. Which, if we can backtrack a little bit, I did want to talk about that.
Yeah, go for it.
Is stealing a jet from a museum really the best way to get to Egypt? In the only way, apparently. I had some questions with that thing. First of all, they steal it, right? And then I don't know. Did they say why the fireworks celebration was happening? Because was it Fourth of
For
July
I think
time?
it was. Yeah.
Okay, because like the endings is Christmas, and I got all confused with the dates. Anyways, okay. First of all, is it safe to drive a plane through fireworks seems hazardous in my opinion.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Second, why is Steve acting like he's never seen fireworks before? Am I right? I did some research on this. Fireworks have been around for thousands of years. Did you know that?
I guess I didn't. No.
So, like, if you go and watch Mulan, the original, the cartoon,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
fireworks because it actually did originate in China. They've literally been around thousands of years, and they have been shooting off fireworks for the 4th of July since 1777. How about that? And then, but here in 1984, yes, he's been gone since what, the 20s? He's seen his share of fireworks. Come on. But it was like, I don't know, some magical scene. But I guess if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, that's weird.
It was strange to me. I mean, if you really think about it.
What year did you say that fireworks originated?
In the US since 1777. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but I don't know if it's just trying to put a little bit of romance into this movie or something, because they didn't really have time, sort of. But it was an interesting scene for me.
I feel like I'm not positive about this, but maybe I think that maybe Wonder Woman was supposed to be released during 4th of July.
That's probably makes sense. I wouldn't doubt that at all. That probably would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, and I think that they added the Christmas scene towards the end because of the release date that it ended up getting.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Did you want to touch on the invisible jet, since you're kind of talking about it? I know that it is a callback, I believe, to the original Wonder Woman and probably the comics as well.
It is. I again should look up exactly how she obtains her invisible jet. That was interesting that she kind of had magical powers, which we haven't really seen from her, and she didn't really use again.
Right.
But apparently that's the only thing she can do. I'd like to see more of that if she can do stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's not really the same thing as in the comics, because obviously she flies her jet and everything like that, and it's a lot more high tech, and it's not like a 2-person fighter jet. But it's something. It's a callback, I suppose. We haven't seen the jet in any of the future movies that she's been in, I don't think, if I'm remembering Justice League correctly. But it's sort of a callback. But why do we need a callback to the comments at that when it's really a huge part of her character, and they should really give her that instead of just making a nod to it?
Yeah, good point. Did you want to mention anything else before we start to wrap things up?
Yeah, just kind of go over the ending again.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't like the final battle with Cheetah. It was very short, and it was again strange how Cheetah all of a sudden wanted to like be a predator and harm people when that's not her character. I get she was kind of losing her humanity or whatever. But at that point, Wonder Woman had already renounced her wish, so she was at full power, and then it didn't even feel like a challenge, you know? Like I felt like Cheetah had nothing on her at that point, especially in the armor.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the armor?
I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, how did she get it? First of all, she was flying in her normal costume, and then she appeared on an island or something, wearing the full armor. How did she
took some kind of detour?
Okay, so she left Washington D.C., which is where she lives, and the armor is in her house. Flew somewhere, came back, got the armor, flew back to where Cheetah and Master Lord are. I'm
maybe
confused.
Maybe it was in her invisible backpack or something.
I don't know. Is it like Iron Man where he can just call it and it comes to him? It was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, well, she lost it anyway, so I guess it's not that good of armor if Cheetah can claw through it.
Again, the story, it's not the best.
No, it's not. And then, I mean, she just takes a little electrocution and then was just like, all right, you're done. Just go sit down, Cheetah. And then I guess it's what to be expected because Master Lord is not going to fight you. He can't really. I guess unless he makes wishes and wishes himself to have powers. Can he do that?
I don't think he can.
I'm
He already,
confused. So
yeah,
he can only make the one wish, right? And then he can only grant other people's wishes, I suppose. I mean, I guess he could have told other people to wish for him to have powers or something because he was taking like their life away, which was kind of an interesting,
right.
really interesting and again, unnecessary plot to this. Like, it was strange because it's like, was he after money or was he after life and power? I don't know because it was hurting him and then it was healing him. You know, I was a little confused at that
The
part.
movie also has a problem not explaining the rules very well, and you need to when this stone and the wishes are such a major part of the story. Because how many people do you think would actually wish to be rich or to be the president of the United States? Like, but it seems like only one person gets that wish, but
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't make
rules
sense.
the rules on the wishes were very strange. First of all, this we find the stone in the beginning when it appears in a shopping mall. That's interesting and convenient. But anyways, the rules are very strange. Like, what like it showed a few people doing their wishes. And it's like, oh, I wish to be famous. I wish my wife was dead. But nobody was like, I wish I was God. And like, you think people would do that, first of all, right?
Yeah.
So I guess there's stipulations to the wish. Second, okay, this probably might be this problem with the movie. Maxwell Lord basically is the main villain, right? I think he's higher up than Cheetah.
Yeah.
She defeats the main villain with a speech. I just can't get past that. Am I right?
You are. At the same time, I mean, I mentioned it before on another episode, but I don't like the first Wonder Woman as much as a lot of people do because I absolutely hate the ending. And this ending isn't very satisfying either. For some reason, I think I like it slightly more than
That's
the other one.
surprising. At
Uh,
least the other one was action and entertaining for me. After the
yeah,
heartfelt goodbye to Steve, I didn't really need another heartfelt speech to Maxwell. And another
right.
huge problem. So they basically said everybody renounced their wish. Like, are you kidding me? On purpose? Everybody? No,
That
no way.
wouldn't happen.
No way. Are you kidding me? Like, does the directors not understand the selfishness of man? Like, no. Just because, oh, Wonder Woman told me? Okay. Like, no. That's never gonna happen. So speeches where 8 billion people get together and join in for humanity. It's unrealistic, to say the least.
Yeah, it's I get the message that they're going for, and I actually like the message that they're going for too, is that we need to be better as people, you know what I mean? And kind of like take responsibility, right? But again, the logic behind a lot of these things, it's not there.
And again, we don't really know the rules. Did literally every human on Earth have to renounce their wish, or is it like a majority situation? I
Yeah,
don't know because it seems very unlikely. Um, and then as it comes to an end, basically Maxwell Lord gets off scot free because he's sorry. Am, am I right? She lets him go, and then he finds his son. Is like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a crappy person. My bad. And, which it was a nice scene in a way, but
yeah,
again with the topic of justice, you gotta you do the crime and gotta do the time. Am I right?
definitely.
It's fair. I'm not a huge fan of when superhero movies let the villain have a change of heart at the end. It's sometimes done good, but a lot of times not. If the villain is going to have a change of heart, I like them to die when they're basically trying to save what their problem was, like what they created. I think an excellent one of that was Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, where obviously he's an awesome villain, but then he sees the error of his ways, which is what happened here, except Matt Lord, again, he got away with it basically. So he got to do all this stuff and have no repercussions whatsoever. Like, I'm not I'm not rooting for it, so don't take it wrong. But would the movie have been better if his son died? Just saying.
I don't know.
You can't say I'm wrong, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to see that happen.
No, you don't want to. But what's the theme? Be careful what you wish for, right? He does all these crazy wishes. What do you got to pay the ultimate price? You lose your son. That seems fair to me. Just saying.
Maybe
and then go to prison after that because you deserve it.
But I think you made a good comparison with Doc Ock because it's like you saw that he really understood what he did wrong. Okay, what am I willing to do to make up for it? You need to be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, you really nailed it with that. Really good comparison, and that would have made things better.
Yeah, because I mean, he's not better at the end. He's still selfish. Okay, he loves his son. Wow, you're an excellent person. I don't know. You have common decency. The only reason and the main reason to renounce all the wishes was literally the entire world was about to be nuked. So it's in your best interest, right? So it's not like he was really looking out for anybody but himself and a little bit his son.
Yeah, this movie, man.
I know. Okay, can we leave it on a positive note? Do you have one more positive from it?
I don't know. I mean, I'll just go back to the acting that I enjoyed for the most part, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe in a better version of Justice League.
Well,
don't have high expectations like a lot of other people do, but we'll give it a shot.
Well, shortly after this movie was released, Warner Brothers announced that they did greenlight Wonder Woman 3 with Patty Jenkins returning to direct that as well, which is pretty quick to do. You might have wanted to wait a little bit on the reception of the movie, I guess. But I mean, they don't have too much else going for them with the extended universe parts. I think out of all of that, I mean, obviously things are still up in the air with Henry Cavill and Man of Steel. Wonder Woman's your best character in that franchise, which is tough to try to build a league around like just her. I don't know. I'm still waiting for them kind of implode the whole thing because of contract disputes and actors and poor movies and all this stuff. It just seems like they lack direction. But what do you think of the post-credit scene with Linda Carter?
I thought it was a good cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anything will become of it, but it was just kind of funny to see.
Was it, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it her in the armor too?
Yeah, she's that character. I forget the name of that character.
Yeah.
But yeah, the person who originally wore the armor.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was a good scene.
It was interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't expect much from post-credit scenes to like set up other movies because they don't know what they're doing themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, that's one of the best parts of going to a Marvel movie is the post-credit scene, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely one of the best parts.
Sometimes they let you down with like Spider-Man Homecoming one, the iconic Patience Captain America video. But I mean, some of them are really cool. But I mean, it was good, interesting to see. Kind of nice way to put a bow on this movie.
Yeah, what's your final score out of 10?
Let's see. good acting, poor plots, okay characters. I'll give it a 5.
Okay, I'll
Like
go. I'll go 6. I'll go
all
6
right,
out of 10.
a soft 5.
um, Definitely what they call a popcorn flick. You just keep scarfing down your popcorn and your candy and try to just enjoy yourself.
I mean, at the very least, the movie was over 2.5 hours long, and so I mean, it took 2.5 hours of my day up, which and then I don't regret doing it, and so it gave me something to do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it was still enjoyable and fun. A good time spent with the family. I think that's pretty much going to wrap things up, Jake. I think it was a good spoiler review. Obviously, we had a lot of negative points about it. There still were some positive points as well. But what I want to say is that I think both of us we're still rooting for DC. We want to see good DC movies. Am I right about saying that?
I definitely want to. Whether or not I think it will happen is a different question, but
Yeah.
I like to. I mean, there's always parts you can take that are good. It's
Hmm.
just kind of frustrating because they are like so good at comics and at animation, and so it's really frustrating when the live action doesn't hold up. Whereas it's kind of reversed with Marvel, even though they do have some good animated. Um, it's just I don't think it would be that hard to just take a book out of Marvel's playbook, but take a page out. But it's they just gotta have a better plan. I mean, do something like with Marvel Studios where you just put Kevin Feige in charge and he runs the show. Um, I honestly don't even know who's in charge of the whole DCEU if there is like one person because I think there should be.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And maybe DC is a good topic for another day. We can do some episodes on that as well. But I think that's going to pretty much do it for our Wonder Woman 84 review. We want to thank our viewers, our listeners. Again, continue to show your support to the channel. We do appreciate it. We got some more videos coming your way very soon, so stay tuned. Thanks a lot, Jake. Gonna see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Until next time.